You said they're like, oh, there we go. Okay, now. Like I said, my voice is not a quiet voice, but this definitely helps. So thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Jacqueline Mamani. I am a proud Arizona native. I was born and raised in Nogales, Arizona. And I'm a mom, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a PTO president. I heard you talking about PTOs, and I'm in the Madison School District. And I have twins, 8th grade twins. And I started just going down to the legislature 2017 to figure out what was going on and why we had to keep selling all that cookie dough. And what I found has taught me. So now I go around and I share it with whoever wants to hear, and we will do this as many times as you all would like, for online or in person. So here we go. This is Save Our Schools Arizona and Save Our Schools Arizona Network. Who are we? We are nonpartisan. That's the big one. It shouldn't be about what the letter is on your voter registration. Public education and education should not be a partisan issue. So I love that. We are community-based. We're an organization fighting for strong schools because we know that that will make our state a better place to live. So what are we going to do tonight? We're going to look at this whole education preview, look at where we are right now. And this presentation is like from the summertime, so this is before the legislature got going. And we're going to see what's coming down the pipeline, and it's been coming down hard, and it's been coming down heavy. So they are going for it down there. They're pulling out all the stops. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can get involved. There's just lots of different ways for all kinds of comfort levels. So, let's talk about K-12 funding and where we are right now, something that keeps me up at night. At least I've known this now for a while, that, Arizona schools have suffered for decades. This is not something new. A lot of times people say, what happened? You thought everything was great. This has actually been going on for the last 20 years. And we are last in the nation in per pupil spending. And you can see here, it's all right there. And, so many times we hear our representatives saying, well, we spend all this money on, education, this big, huge chunk, yeah. But I'm not making up, the stats are right there. We are at the bottom. And this is really important for, even just everybody to know, and for you to share with everyone, is where are we right now? Because so many people think 208 passed. The teachers got their money. They got the 20 by 2020, they're great. Nope, that's not right. It passed, the voters approved it, but not one penny has been collected, nor has it been distributed, obviously, because we are mired in lawsuits. So the 208 is stuck and not moving anywhere, and they're trying to block it all kinds of different ways. And one of the ways they try to block it is, they passed a flat tax. And so we got involved and we did the Invest in Arizona referendum. We stopped the flat tax from going into effect, keeping $1 billion in our schools each year. But now they're trying to attack that, and they're trying to repeal it. And we hear, we've got members of our team in the legislature. We've got people all over the place listening and planning on what we're going to do next. And it's not a secret. There's no, they can tell you themselves that the current legislature does not support additional funding for public schools. They think everything's great. There's not a problem. Let's focus on other things. And that's where I and, so many other volunteers across the state are saying, no, we're not okay with that. Prop 123, those are funds that, lots of different, Arizona, and we have a very funky, funny funding mechanism. So there's all these propositions. Proposition 123, that's going to sunset in 2025. That's going to be another $225 million per year. That's from the lawsuit against Governor Ducey, his failure to fund public schools. It was Cave Creek Unified versus Ducey. Then there's $2 billion from a state land trust over 10 years. I mean, there's all this money going, coming all around. And something that we know for sure, and that is consistent, is that Arizona spends over $300 million on private school vouchers every year. And those are ESA, that's Empowerment Scholarship Account vouchers. We can go more into that if you all are interested. We've got a lot of information. That's what woke me up first, is these private school vouchers where they put about roughly close to $6,000 on a credit card and allow you to take that to pay for a private school tuition. And then there's the STO voucher. We lose $225 million every year on that, and that's the student tuition organization. That's when you're writing your taxes and they say, well, just give your $2,400 to the private school. It doesn't cost you a penny. Well, it costs somebody a penny. There's no free money tree. Who's it costing? Our general fund, our public schools. And, you get $2,400 for your private school, you get $400 for your public school. Kind of go on like, well, what's up with that? And here's another one, we could just, again, Arizona, look it up. The stats are all there. We are at the bottom. This is, again, funding as per the national average. California, Colorado, Nevada, I think New Mexico just announced they're going to be paying their teachers close to $50,000 or more than that. And so we know what's happening to teachers. I'm a substitute teacher, and people think, subs, you don't really, you're not teachers. Yes, we're teachers and we're certified teachers, and I specifically teach because I know what happens in my kids' classrooms when there's not a teacher. So the crisis in education, I've never seen it so bad with teachers and leaving, people not coming back after the break in our building. So substitutes are making it happen. So what else do we know about Arizona? We have the second most crowded class sizes in the U.S. We have the highest teacher turnover in the U.S. This is pre-pandemic. We have one counselor per 905 students. As we talk about social emotional learning and what our students have been through and this pandemic, and instead of meeting them where they are with their social emotional needs, we've got one counselor to 905 students. We don't have nurses, we don't have librarians, we don't have enough counselors. Unfunded art programs, broken down buses, ACs, computers, textbooks are outdated, and we could go on. And we have a lot of PTOs that kind of supplement all this stuff, right? But why? Why does the PTO? And what about the schools that don't have an active PTO? What happens to them? So what's it going to take? They're always asking, oh, you educators, teachers, you guys just want more money, more money. Well, when are you ever going to be satisfied? Well, how about giving us the missing $3.5 billion? That would be great. But, they do spend $3.8 billion, and then you've got propositions 123 and 301. That's $775 million in there that could expire in 2025. So when it's all said and done, and they say we spend a big piece of pie, yeah, but you're missing a big $3.5 billion to get us to the national average. So let's talk about what the legislature has been doing. This guy right here is the big one. I'll show you. I added a slide. This AEL, the aggregate expenditure limit. I had never heard tell, and I never really wanted to, but this is, the legislature can fix this with a vote. They could just straight, here we go, we're going to do a bill, we're all going to play nice, so we're going to fix this, we're going to fix this limit that was set in 1980 that says you cannot spend more than this set amount. Even though the state has the money, they've already promised it to the districts have already budgeted. So this doesn't mean that, oh, this is going to happen next year. No, in March, if they do not fix the aggregate expenditure limit, which we are now calling the AEL, school districts all around the state are going to lose. They're not going to be able to spend. So the money is there, but they will not be able to spend $1.2 billion with a B. That is not a typo, for the last 3 months of this school year. And I'm going to show you on the next slide what that means for Scottsdale School District. And we are seeing legislators like Christine Porter Marsh introduce opportunity weight. This is something that we would like to see because it is a way to fix the funding formula because it's inequitable. And the first thought is that an opportunity way allots more money for schools with more students in poverty. Right now, Arizona has it backwards. Right now, we do merit-based funding and who's doing great on the test. And so what happens is the ones that needed more get less, and the ones that don't need it get more, and so it's backwards. So, we like the opportunity weight idea. But here's the AEL, the aggregate expenditure limit. Oh, sorry, the constitutional spending cap. Yeah, this is, again, they've got to override it by March 1st, and I think if I click it again, right there. You can, Save Our Schools has a website where you can go and see district per district, but Scottsdale Unified will lose $27 million. They would not be able to spend. I should stop saying they would lose. They would not be able to spend $27 million at the end of this year. That means teachers are going to get laid off. Schools are going to get closed. People are going to lose their jobs. How are we going to, where are students going to go? 95% of Arizona students use public schools. And there's a fix for this. Now, people say, oh, they're going to fix it, trust the legislature. I've been watching the legislature since 2017, and I hear some representatives saying, we will do it if you do this. We want more vouchers, so, and it shouldn't be. You should just take that cap away. It's not 1980 anymore. And we've been seeing this, they encourage our volunteers, we encourage our volunteers to watch the committees, the education committees. It's very hard to watch as a teacher and a mom because they are attacking. They're terrible teacher retaliation bills. We have seen bills coming down, this anti-CRT thing. And look, teachers, if we could, indoctrinate children, I think we would teach them how to sit and listen and turn in their homework and, things like that. Nobody's teaching CRT. And they're spending time passing laws that, really we don't need. We need them to fix our public education system. And so school board control bills, they want to make it partisan. They want it to where you have to, give your party affiliation to run for school board. And again, education is a place where we need to come together, where it's not about what your party affiliation is. So they're spending a lot of time on these bills, again, that we do not see how they can help fix the crisis that we're in. And they're coming back around big time, heavy duty for vouchers. They want vouchers expanded in any way they can. Governor Ducey said it in his State of the State. He, he wants to have private schools expand their vouchers. So it's, he's saying if you don't like your school, if they're making you wear a mask, take your voucher, go to a private school where you have to wear a mask and get vaccinated. But, these terrible failing schools, well, you've been breaking them for the last 20 years. Why don't you help them instead of, the other way? But so, what can you do? Where can you, Save Our Schools has a fantastic education report. You can sign up for it. It's a weekly education report. It's free. sosarizona.org. You sign up there. It tells you every week it comes out. I'm a community action team coordinator. I should have told you that as well for Save Our Schools. And these are people that get together with a team of volunteers via Zoom. Right now we're doing it back to once a week. We go over this education report. It tells you what is coming down next week, what bills can you RTS. There's ways to tell the legislature what you would like them to do from the comfort of your own home. I'll talk a little bit about that, but what can you do? Well, we need to elect a pro-public education legislator and governor. And Save Our Schools spends time finding out who those candidates are. Again, if you fill out a little survey and it tells us, are you public school proud or not? And that's where the public school proud t-shirt comes from. So if you have a D, an R, an I in front of your name, if you're public school proud, Save Our Schools wants to work with you. We want to increase investments in public education. We need to, elect people that will do this. We must cap the growth of ESAs and STOs. And we would like to require, more transparency for all schools receiving taxpayer dollars. One of the other problems with the voucher program is that there is very little transparency. Once that money goes on to that credit card, the way they get around it, separation of church and state is we gave it to the parent is the middle guy, and now if the parent pays the private school tuition, that's on them, but then you don't have to know what did they spend it on. And we have had instances where you can roll over the money for year after year. You don't really need it, you roll it over. And there's study after study that shows that it doesn't help kids out of poverty. The people that are already using vouchers are people that can afford to already pay for their private school, because we know that private schools average about $15,000 to $20,000 a year. You get $6,000, $5,000 on a card. Who's going to pay the other 10? A mother, a single mom, a single dad, a grandmother raising a kid is not going to be able to pay the difference. But somebody who's already able to, get that, to pay the tuition can. So we want to make sure that there's more transparency. Where's our taxpayer money going? I'm always surprised sort of where I'm like, that's our money, all of our money, So what are we recommending? What can you do? Join our community action teams. We have teams all across the state. We've got teams to the south. We've got teams to the north. We've got East Valley, West Valley. I'm Greater Phoenix. You jump on a call on Sundays. We go through this weekly report that you'll get via email. We show you how to request to speak. We have a tool for you to write the emails. We've got all of their phone numbers. We have great guest speakers. You'll see, different representatives coming to chat with us. Follow us on Facebook. We have webinars. You can also donate. Of course, we are a nonprofit. But if you want us to come and speak to you about ESAs and STOs, and if you want us to come do this again, because the reason that I do this after a long day of subbing is that my state is worth fighting for. My kids are worth fighting for. Our kids are worth fighting for. So, join us. There's a lot of work to do, and we are already gearing up for the 2022 election as far as volunteering. But there's a lot that you can just start off doing by, from your house, from using the request to speak system, and we can show you step by step. We get together. Emmy's been to one of our meetings, and it's an hour long, and then you learn a little bit, and it's fun. So I think, this is why we fight. We are wanting to prioritize and fund our public schools. 95% of Arizonans choose them. And we know that good schools raise our property taxes. They help our economy. They help us recruit businesses. I certainly don't get a bunch of pride saying I'm from Arizona where we're 50th in the nation. Woo! No, I wish we were, at least getting a C. Let's go to 25. And we want to provide quality public schools to every neighborhood. I'm from Nogales, where they don't have a bunch of private schools to send kids down there. There's one private school, and otherwise there isn't. And so while their schools are getting defunded, there's really no choice for them. Are there any questions? Emmy? I'm not sure there's a huge budget surplus, so I'm not sure how much is in the budget right now. I don't know that number. It's too many numbers swimming in my head, but we do know that there are billions of dollars in surplus again this year, and that they don't really feel like they need to give it to the education system. They want to do the flat tax, so they want to give it away to people that are already making a ton of money. And so the flat tax has been referred, but that one is all mired up in, we'll see what happens to it. So, but before they would say if we had the money, we would give it to you, teachers. They have the money. They have the money now. And when we got the by 2020, that didn't move the needle at all, really. We had to go out on a walkout. With 70, there was a strike to get that 20 by 2020, which didn't really move us to any, spot. So the fact of the matter is that Arizona does not want to do what is in their Constitution. Our Constitution says that Arizona must provide free and quality public education for all, and that is not happening. The quality part is missing for a lot of our students, and so, and The other part is that when people see our PTOs kind of pitching in tons of money, they go, oh, they're fine. The PTO's got it. Well, actually, it should be the state of Arizona that has it, and it should have everybody. So, yes, that's the deal on the budget. And, you know, the money gets to be so, you know, billion, we throw around all these billions and hundreds of millions, but the aggregate expenditure limit is really, really scary to me. So that one, I think, definitely go out and talk to everyone that you can and say, hey, just call your legislator, email your legislator, or if you're, you know, we will teach you how to request to speak. Request to speak is a system that you can use from your computer where the bills come up prior to them going to committee, right 24 hours before or any time before they go to committee. You go onto your computer, we tell you this is the bill number, and you can give your comments, and as they are in committee, they can read those comments and they can see how many people give it a thumbs up, how many people give it a thumbs down. If you want to speak, we also are looking for people to give testimony. You know, a lot of times the louder opposition voices get a lot of attention, and people think, well, I don't really want to go down there because, you know, I'm just a mom, or we need to speak up for our schools, and we're looking for people to testify on different bills, looking for people to run for school boards. We have somebody here running for school board because we need to make sure that from the bottom all the way up, from our school boards, local legislators, and up, that we have pro-public education candidates. So, you know, if you've never thought about running for school board, if you thought, oh, I could never, yes, you can. And Save Our Schools has ways we train you, we support you, we help you, because we know that it really has to be somebody who's doing it for the right reason, to be in our schools and to be making decisions for our schools. And right now, what the people representing us are not making the best decisions for our schools. Any other questions? Go ahead. Yes. Yes. That's a great question. Absolutely great question. The first thing I want to make sure people know is that charter schools are public schools. You know, people will say, oh, the charter schools are taking our money. No, no, no. Charter schools are public schools. They receive public dollars. But then there are differences, as Emmy, mentioned. There's many, they don't play by the same rules. They don't have to take every student. A public school, any student that shows up to a public school's door, we take them. Charter schools, they could say yes, but you know what, no thank you. They don't have to show you their books. They don't have to show you your financials. They don't have to show you their teacher certifications. They don't have open meeting laws. They can meet one person in an office and, all in favor. There's very little oversight on that. I did see this week there was one bill that is going to require that they have fingerprint clearance cards for their staff. So that's not something they do right now. So we said thumbs up on that one, like, yeah, good start. And that really, charters is a whole other can of worms. So right now we, make sure people know charter schools are public schools. They get public dollars, but they don't have to play by the same rules. And so, obviously that makes it difficult, but that train has left the station a whole long time ago. So right now we kind of want to fix the ESAs, the STOs, aggregate expenditure limit. Save Our Schools has blocked for the past couple of years the majority of voucher expansions. There was one that did get by, well, the transportation grants, those got by anyway. And there are now, Arizona is the only state where you can take your voucher and use it to pay for private schools in other states. So if you live on the reservation, now you can go to any state that has, you can use your money in different states. Thank you, Arizona. Our taxpayer dollars. Yes, there is. Well, so we have that. I think I said between, 227 on, let's see if we go this way. We have a whole presentation on vouchers. They're really scary because they can grow exponentially. So right now, Arizona spends over 300 million every year, but it's growing. So those are last year's numbers. And yeah, the thing with vouchers is that, they don't call them vouchers, they call them empowerment scholarship accounts. So it sounds, and then when you translate that, if you're working with the Latino community, it sounds like a beca de empoderamiento, like sounds like a scholarship, but it's not a scholarship, it's a voucher. But the reason that they changed its name is because vouchers were found to be unconstitutional. So they got creative and they changed the name. And so those are the kinds of things that happen in our state, and that when I found out about them, it made me furious. And so now, on top of being a mom and a small business owner and a substitute teacher, I am a volunteer and a community action team coordinator with Save Our Schools, because I feel like everybody needs to know, and we need to, speak up about it. Sure. Absolutely. So an ESA is an empowerment scholarship account. That is, it started off for students with disabilities, special education students, because maybe their public school didn't have, what that student needed, and so they started with that, and they said, okay, special education students, if you are not getting, you have an IEP, you can take this voucher, about $5,000, and go and find a different place to be. But then they kept adding, right? Then they had military families, wards of the state, people on the reservation, DRF-rated schools. Now they're wanting to expand it to kids that are bullied, which, it pretty much, they've tried, the way that Save Our Schools was founded is 2018, they were going to do a universal voucher expansion had passed. Everybody was going to qualify for a voucher. Save Our Schools Arizona said no, gathered over 180,000 signatures, got it on the ballot. So we have rejected 65% of voters rejected vouchers, and we thought, well, that makes it to where the voter has spoken, you cannot do it. But so that's the voucher. So, and the other thing is when those special ed students get to that private school with their voucher, guess what? They don't have to take them. So we hear stories after stories of, hey, I went with my voucher, but, well, thanks, but no thanks, we're good. So just because you have that $5,000, $6,000, and it really depends on the child's disability. Some special education students get more because it depends on what their needs are. Now, what ends up happening with those students is they end up back at the public school, which has to take them, and they do not get any extra money for that student. So many of the special education costs that a school has to absorb are not paid for. So the difference between an ESA is, okay, your child is, has an IEP, here's your $5,000, you're gonna go. An STO is a student tuition organization. This one is really blows your mind. This one says, how right before taxes, somebody will say, hey, did you give your $400 to your public school, right? You write the $400 check, you give it to your school, you do your taxes, it comes right back to you. And some people will say, well, cool, can you give your private school tuition, so then you write $2,400, you give it to the school, and then tax season comes and you get your $2,400 back, and your friend, whoever, says, oh, look, see, you didn't cost you anything. Well, that $2,400 cost somebody something, and it's the general fund. So everybody who gives that student to, gives that tax credit, takes that tax credit, private school tax credit, the state of Arizona can never really guess how many people are going to take it. So it's very hard to budget, because come April, you don't know how many people wrote that check out to these different, tuitions. So every school, or let me make sure I'm saying this right, a private school has to make a student tuition organization. That's the vessel that the money goes into. So in order for them to collect the money, they must have one of these student tuition organizations. The money all goes in there. Whoever manages that fund takes 10% off the top. So they're making money off of this money. So he's not in office now. Steve Yarborough was the president of the Senate years back. He made over hundreds of millions of dollars. $100 million he made because he passed a law. He owned the STO. His wife was the, administrator, and the son was and so they do take 10% off the top, and so every school that is collecting these funds has an STO, and that's what that stands for, and so your accountant will take care of that, and then you get your money, but the general fund gets hit, and that's where our teachers and schools get funded from. I'm not sure if businesses can pay into that as well, so on STOs. Is that even more terrifying? Okay. Before I knew, I used to have a friend, that said, hey, my kid goes to private, your kid goes to public, let's straight. Okay. But that's what and then I thought, well, where did that money come from? And I've been sitting in different places where I hear people talking, hey, just go ahead, my child goes to XYZ private school, and I can't really afford all of the tuition, but what I heard is if I get several people, neighbors, aunts, uncles, grandma, to give us their tax credit, private school tax credit, then they give us, then that makes up for what we can't pay. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it depletes the general fund, which is where our schools are funded from. So it does cost us. And you are defunding your local school, basically. You're robbing from your local school. And I didn't know that businesses could pay into this. And there's actually businesses that show people how to do this. I have seen that, where you have people it's like a little Tupperware party, except you all write your check. And the other thing with that is that it really assumes that you have the extra money to be able to do that. Again, our schools that are, in the high poverty areas, you don't have parents that can write $400 checks right now and get it back in April. That just doesn't work that way. So, these things are really scary because I have heard that. Accountants also encourage that, and that's should be illegal and terrifying to me because sure. Yeah. One of them they list, and so I'm very I'm very careful with my tax deductions. I still give my public school. I still give my public school my $400 because I know they need it. But I had heard from somebody else, from one of our other teammates, that said, oh, our accountant tells my parents every year, hey, you can do this. And again, it's hard to budget for a state when you don't know how many people that year are going to take that tax credit. So, no, Save Our Schools Arizona, that's not really our lane, and so it's that's maybe a good bit of feedback to sort of see whose lane that is. So we just make sure that we really started with voucher expansion, right? We just were like, no new vouchers, that's what we do. But they've been throwing so many other things. We did, we were part of the coalition that helped gather the signatures that were necessary to get the flat tax on the ballot. And so, that flat tax is also very, troublesome because it's devastated economies. And even though, once again, we have gotten the signatures, there were three of them out there, we got one on the ballot, and they're doing everything they can. They said they're going to repeal it and replace it with something bigger. Sure. Right, and the 208 initiative, that was AEA. So let's start with the first initiative that we did was the voucher, the no on 305. That was Save Our Schools. We got that one. We stopped the voucher expansion, but they've continued to come back after that. Then the next one that we helped out on was 208. So the one where they're going to tax the top 10%, the top percentage of earners. 3%, thank you, like my brain is like, 3% of earners, that little surcharge on anything they make over 500K filing joint, 250 filing single. First time it got knocked off the ballot by some judges for language, and then we got it back they did it again. It got on the ballot, but since then, 208 has been involved in. Right. Right. That's what they're holding, correct. They're holding it hostage. And yeah, so then not only, they don't want to fix the aggregate expenditure limit, right? Because then it'll fund 208. So they're like, we don't want to fund 208. And the governor and the legislature had said they will do everything that they can. So now we're waiting for, the Supreme Court of Arizona to make a decision on 208 and what's going to happen, whether there's going to be any piece of it left, whether it'll just once again be thrown out, gutted, somehow done away with. And that, volunteers collecting 180,000 signatures during the heat of the summer, several summers in a row, and these things just being like, whoosh, it really makes you think, well, what am I doing? What are we doing? I think they just want us to give up and go away. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And so after 208 got, stuck in the muck, then they passed a flat tax last legislative season. Right at the end there, they went all the way through into July and passed the flat tax saying, again, let's give away, instead of giving the money to the schools, let's give this money away to the millionaires and billionaires. And we jumped in with AEA and another, coalition of organizations. And once again, we collected the necessary signatures. There were there are three different ones, but we were able to get enough for one, which was the flat tax, the big guy. And we're going to wait and see what happens on that, because again, they could repeal it, they could, there's all kinds of little tricks that they spend time figuring out. So we are watching, we're waiting, we have people that are, on top of it, and we'll see what happens. But lots of litigation, and all of that costs a lot of money, and who's paying for that? State of Arizona. We are. Right. Right, and so yes, it's, why don't they just fund our schools? Go ahead, I mean, no problem. Yeah, I can do some of that. I'm not an expert at it, but basically, before anything gets to the floor, it has to go through committee and go through like a first and second read. And then if it passes through committee, then at that point it will be brought to, the whole legislature. One of the committee members, so somebody on that committee, I believe. Correct. The committee chair decides what's going to be heard. The committee chair decides if they're going to get public testimony or if they're going to allow Zoom testimony. With the legislature right now, they are not really using too many mitigation plans. So, if you want to go down there, you might want to make sure you are masked and, because they're not allowing remote testimony, not even from their own legislators. Who just had a baby and asked to please be able to work remotely as she has a newborn, and they said no. So, so then once it makes it through committee, then it goes to the general floor, and then it gets debated and voted on then. But if it doesn't make it through committee, that doesn't mean it can't come back and see you. So last year, what ended up happening was many of the things that died in committee that they didn't have the votes to get through, ended up getting pushed onto the budget. And that's what one of the lawsuits was about, is that the budget should be a single subject. It should all be about the budget. You can't put in anti-mask mandates and anti-CRT, and they did. They did that. So many of the bills that they did not, the transportation grants, they want to be able to offer transportation to charter schools. It didn't get through the education committee. They didn't have the votes. They just stuffed it into the budget. Then the governor was sued, and I was part of that lawsuit, and lots of school boards and school districts, yes. And of course, we won, and they said you can't do that. But now the governor went ahead and put the transportation grants into something else. And he on his State of the State, he talked about these great things that he's going to do. Never mentioned the teacher crisis at all. Didn't make any mention of it at all. And mentioned about summer school and all this. And that's using federal dollars. Those are federal dollars, not state money. That's from the Biden administration for COVID and all this other stuff. And we've seen what's going on with his use of the COVID relief money. The Department of the Treasury is not happy, and now he's suing them. We're suing them because he got in trouble for misappropriating funds that were supposed to be for COVID relief. So, welcome to Arizona. Lots of lawsuits, and so, again, you're like, why can't we just stop suing each other and let's give the money to education? That would be great. I didn't wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to go collect 180,000 signatures with a bunch of other crazy people. I didn't. I am a teacher, I'm a mom, and I wish that I could be in the classroom, but I can't afford to be in the classroom because I can't make enough money to feed my family as a single mom. I have to do other things. So that's why I sub, because I know that they need the help, but I've got to be able to do this and other things to help really move Arizona forward. So it's going to take every single one of us. Hope you'll join the team. At least get the weekly, because and then it just got these one-click little buttons like, email your legislator. This is what you're going to say. You can personalize it a little bit. Here's the phone number. You don't, request to speak. That one you have to actually go down to the legislature yourself if you don't have the little SOS tool. But if you have the little SOS tool, we send runners. So you fill out your email, your name on this form. Somebody will take that down to the legislature, sign you up for request to speak, send you the email that says, here's your temporary password. And then you can get onto that system and tell the legislators what you think. It's a little bit tricky, the system, because it was made for lobbyists, but now we've learned how to use it. And that's why we get together on Sundays, to primarily talk about the bills and let you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, and yeah, that's about it. But thank you so much again for taking the time, and we will come back over and over and over again if and you can request all on that weekly, that report that you'll get, that newsletter that you'll get. You can request presentations, you can sign up for a team, you can share it with your friends. We do a little bit of canvassing too. We get out there and we just drop literature right now to make sure people know, how is your legislator voting? People need to connect the dots. Sometimes they say, well, I've always voted like this. I'm going to do that. Well, connect the dots. You're hurting your school. You're hurting your community. So thank you so much. And Save Our Schools Arizona, Save Our Schools Arizona Network. Let us know whatever we can do to support you and your public schools. Thank you. All right. Let me see who they are.
You can cross out the clock.